In the last video, we set up our Webpack config file to load in our public app.js file and export it as the bundled bundle.js file. Now this is fine, but in this video, we want to ditch this dummy example we created and start working with our real JSX file. And the first step in that process is going to be to update the entry attribute on our module.exports object. Instead of looking for a file called app.js, we want to look for a file called app.jsx. And by default, Webpack doesn't know what to do with the JSX file. If I run Webpack from the terminal after saving my config file, you can see we're getting some strange errors. Long story short, Webpack is complaining about an unexpected token it sees when we try to open the div inside of our JSX. It's not standard JavaScript and it doesn't know how to handle it. In order to do this, you can see they even suggest using a loader to handle this file type, and that's exactly what we're going to do. If you remember, we installed in package.json a few Babel-related dev dependencies, one of them being Babel Loader. We're going to use Babel Loader to convert all of our JSX files into ES5 code that we can use today. And the first step in that process is to add our loader into the modules. So inside of Webpack config, I'm going to specify module, set it equal to an object, then I'm going to specify a loaders attribute on that, which is equal to an array of objects. So what I have is module, which is an object, loaders, which has an array of different loaders to use, each of them being their own object. And the only loader we're going to set up is Babel Loader, and configuring it requires a few steps. First up is the loader name. I'm going to set loader equal to Babel Loader, just like the package is named in the package.json file. Next up, I'm going to pass some data into Babel Loader, telling it what exactly we want it to do to our files. Using the query object, I can specify a few custom attributes. In this case, all we're going to do is set presets, and presets is built into Babel, so it knows what to do with this array. We're going to specify two inside of the array, React and ES 2015. So for now, this is probably super confusing. It might seem kind of archaic. Why are we even doing this? Long story short, we're telling the Babel loader to take our files, parse them through React, get the output, and then run them through ES 2015 as well. Now you might be asking, well, how does it know which files to get? In order to do that, we're going to specify a test attribute, which is going to be equal to a regular expression matching any file that has a .jsx extension. In order to do this, follow along, // This is going to open and close our regular expression, and inside, the first thing we're going to do is look for the dot in the file extension, and we have to escape it because a dot is a special character in regular expressions. Then we're looking for the letters JSX. Next up, we're going to use the money sign in order to match it at the end of the file name. And that's it. The next thing we can do after our little regular expression is to specify which folders we don't want to have parsed. Using exclude, we can pass in another regular expression, just like we did above. And in this case, what we're going to do is open and close a set of parentheses, and we're going to specify two folders to be ignored. First up is our node_modules folder. And just for a little later, we're also going to ignore our Bower components folder. Now, this folder doesn't exist yet, but it will in a few sections, and it's best to future-proof our code if we know what's coming up next. And with that in place, we are done. I'm going to go ahead and save my webpack.config file. Make sure yours looks exactly like mine. Throughout the course, there's usually about 100 different ways you can do something, but with the Webpack config file, the details are important. If you get even one character wrong in a regular expression, nothing might work, and when you run Webpack, you're probably going to see some errors. So once your file looks like this, you're ready to head into app.jsx for one final change. So we removed our script tags from our index.html file, and that means the React variable currently isn't available in app.jsx. Remember, when we're using Webpack, every file is treated as its own island. That means if we want to use something like React, we can't assume it's available globally, we have to import it explicitly. We're going to do that the same way we did it in app.js, where we used the require keyword. At the very top of the file, we're going to import React. So I'm going to create a React variable, set it equal to require. And in this case, since we installed the module via npm, we can simply type the name out. And we're going to do the same thing for React DOM, since we also use that in this file and we removed its script tag. Var React DOM equals require, and the module name is React-DOM. All right, with this in place, our app.jsx file is ready to go. From the terminal, I'm going to go ahead and run Webpack. You can see that Webpack did quite a few things. It found our bundle.js and it found 159 hidden modules. This is because as we include React and React DOM, all of its dependencies come along as well. Bundler took all of that stuff and dumped it into one JS file, and that means if I run node server from the terminal, I should be able to head over to my browser and see the original app we created. And here it is, our little Hello React app where I can update the name or update the message. So what we've done here is we've removed the dependencies inside of index.html, and we now compile our application before we ever start the server, so the bundle file is ready to go. This is a much more realistic setup for a production React app, and we are almost done. In the next video, we're going to pull out all of these components into their own files. Since we now have JSX support set up with Webpack, it really isn't going to be that hard. So let's take a quick moment to recap what we did in this video. The first thing we did is we changed the entry port that Webpack looks for. Before, it was loading in app.js. Now we're telling it to load in our little React app, which is in app.jsx. Now, since there is JSX code in that file, Webpack doesn't know what to do by default, so we have to use what Webpack calls loaders. In this case, we only need one loader, Babel loader, and Babel by itself, even if you don't use it with Webpack, it requires presets. That tells Babel what to do. In this case, we're telling it to compile our code for React in ES 2015. The next thing we do is tell it which files we want to apply this loader to. In this case, we've decided to select every file that has a .jsx extension. And last but not least, we exclude the node modules folder and the Bower components folder, since we don't care about the files that are in there. And lastly, in app.jsx, we now have to start requiring the dependencies that our file needs. Since we've removed the script tags, the global variables no longer exist, and we have to use the require keyword available by Webpack in order to load in the modules. That's it for this video. I'll see you next time.